The problem with stars is the individualization of authority. That's part of the problematic, right? It's not all of the problematic, but that's part of it. So I came back to this notion of authority and how it's grounded ultimately in the narrative metaphor of the author who writes a story, right? That's where we get the notion of authority from. And then I was thinking, and I thought back to Camus, and I'm thinking through the plague. And the point about the plague, right, is the breakdown of narrative, right? Human beings keep trying all these narratives on the plague, and the plague keeps basically giving them the finger, right? And saying, so try that narrative if you want, look what I can do. Oh, try that narrative you want, look what I can do. And try that, and then you get the two figures of Rieu and Peru, who slowly they abandon the narrative projection. They abandon the narrative projection. And then it occurred to me, and again, I'm thinking also of, your game B stuff about trying to break the fundamental grammar in a deep way. So I want to tread very carefully here, and I'm saying this cautiously, and I'm not fully committed to it because the language isn't completely adequate, but it's the only language I have right now. I think our notion of God, the mythological notion, is a narrative notion, right? And what we're seeing right now is not the breakdown of a narrative. We're seeing the breakdown of narrativity. That's the death of God. Okay. But I've been thinking about this. So I think about this in terms of a debate I had with, not a debate, a DiaLogos, better, because it was wonderful with Paul van der Clay and Jonathan Pajot. But I was trying to argue that we should shift the sacred from narrative to DiaLogos. Here, and part of the proposal went like this. Let's go back to the parenting metaphor. Okay. Children are not naturally narrative. We have to do the narrative practice hypothesis. They're not naturally metaphorical. We have to teach them this. We have to practice it. But what are they naturally? What is it that they naturally have that affords us being able to teach them narrative and metaphor? They are naturally dialogical. That's all of the work of Tomasello and all the work that's coming out. Kids come ready, like joint attention, they take turns, they're mimetic, right? So DiaLogos is more primordial and more grounding. And I thought of your argument about do we need to drop to the deepest levels to access what is most perennially powerful right now. So we have to drop below the narrative level. We have to drop below the narrative level of authority. Right? And we have to drop into seeing, no. What it ultimately is grounded in is DiaLogos. And DiaLogos is not a finite story. It's an infinite game, right?
Oh.
Right.
No, I mean, I was about to drop your brother Karst right in the middle of it. So you just pulled it
out, which is great. So we don't have to talk anymore. Like, we're actually on so much sync that it's just the words will come from whatever mouth happens to be open. Great. Yeah.
So much, yes. That's it. Like, narrative is all about being right. It's a finite game. The trick is, can I get the right narrative? Can I get everybody else to adopt my narrative? DiaLogos is intrinsically the inverse of that, or the converse maybe. It's the opening, right? It's a playful relationship rather with them.